we want to do a review for the Unit 4 lecture exam in astronomy, and this is going to be lesson number 24, Life in the Universe. So this is our biology segment. This is critical, okay? You've got to look at these lesson objectives because this is a very long lesson, and I talk about a lot of different things. But if you keep in mind the lesson objectives, it will make it a whole lot easier to study this material for the exam. And then also notice that some of it's in black. And what does that mean? You do not need to know anything in bold for the exam. So don't worry about some of that stuff. This is going to be chapter 19 out of your textbook. Okay, properties of life. All right, and what did it say in the lesson objectives? That you ought to know 2 properties of life. So the first property of life is it's organized, meaning atoms are inside of molecules. Molecules are then inside of macromolecules. And then macromolecules are inside of organelles. All right, so just the idea that your body is very organized in the way that everything is connected together. Okay, then the idea that life is based on chemistry. So that inside your body there is all sorts of different chemical reactions are going on to make you a living organism. Okay, life moves, life reacts to its environment, and then life grows. Life is genetically controlled, so that means that inside every cell of your body is DNA instructions that is telling those cells what to do. And then life changes. Okay, next thing, can you name 2 elements that life is composed of? So what do you think is the most important element that life is based on? So it's going to be based on carbon. So we are carbon-based life forms. Now if I said what's the most important element in geology, then you should have said silicon. And notice that both of them are in the same column in the periodic table. So that silicon is the most important element in geology, and carbon is the most important element in biology. And then other ones in biology that are important are going to be oxygen, and then nitrogen, and then hydrogen. So any 2 of those would be okay on the exam. And then this again is a comparison of geology and then biology. So you should also be able to explain to me, why is carbon so important? So the idea that carbon has 4 valence electrons, and each of those electrons can act like a hook so that they can hook onto other atoms. And so you can start to build up organic material based on carbon. And the interesting thing about carbon is it can make chains, but it also can make rings as well. Carbon can also bond to itself, which is something that silicon cannot do. But carbon can bond to another carbon over here, for example. So carbon is very versatile, and so it forms the backbone of all organic materials. And then don't worry about boron and nitrogen and silicon and phosphorus, so don't worry about that. Okay, can you name the 5 key organic molecules found in living organisms? All right, so that you have carbohydrates, and another name for carbohydrates is sugars. You have lipids. Another name for a lipid is a fat. Okay, then you have proteins. Then you have nucleic acids that make up RNA and DNA. And then you have ATP. So ATP is an electrical battery that goes around inside of the cells of your body carrying energy. And then when the ATP interacts with other objects inside the cell, it gives its energy to those other objects. Now, you don't need to know about this, okay? So this is just expands on what I just said. You don't need to know about this because this expands on what I just said. Okay, you don't need to know about this. Although, yes, I would like for you to know what an amino acid is. So proteins are composed of amino acids that are strung together. Okay, and then we said that nucleic acids, when they're strung together, they make DNA and RNA. And then here is what the ATP does. So again, the major thing is, can you name the 5 major kinds of organic macromolecules that are found inside of organisms? Okay, and then the next thing is, can you name 2 parts of a cell? Okay, name 2 things that you find inside of cells. And so I would recommend the envelope, so the cell membrane that surrounds the cell, so that's actually an organelle, and then the nucleus. So inside the nucleus is where the DNA is. You could also say the mitochondria, so that's the power plant of the cell. You might also remember ribosomes or ribosomes. So ribosomes are the things that manufacture the proteins. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff inside of cells. And then I also want you to look at, you see how small a bacteria is? And you notice that the size of that bacteria is about the same size as the mitochondria. And later we're going to come up with a theory that that's where the mitochondria came from. That originally mitochondria were free swimming bacteria that got incorporated into another cell. Okay, let's take a break here, and when we come back we'll talk about how is DNA turned into RNA.